Okay, guys, we're back and we're doing part 2. Okay, here we go. It wasn't long before the Turbo Toilet 2000 had pieced together every single event. That had brought him and his army of talking toilets to this frozen, frustrating fate. I need to relate, he said, clenching his razor-sharp porcupine teeth together tightly. I must avenge my fallen allies. Luckily for him, he was a robot, which meant he knew a thing or two about mechanical engineering. It didn't take long for him to disassemble the robot plunger, rearrange the pieces, and create a flying rocket scooter from the recycled parts of his arch enemy. The only thing left to do was travel the long journey from Uranus to Earth. It was a voyage that would take him nearly 3 whole pages to complete. And when he arrived, he would wage a war against the good people of Earth. A war that would threaten the way foundation of our planet. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 3, Melvin's Moment of Mirth. Remember back in Chapter 1 where we found out that Melvin had a whole year's worth of reasons why he needed to bring George and Harold and Captain Underpants back to the present? Well, in case you're wondering what happened during that year, here's what happened during that year. Fortunately, immediately after our heroes disappeared on their prehistoric journey, the cops started looking for George, Harold, and Captain Underpants and Mr. Crow. Wanted posters appeared in the post offices across America. But since George and Harold and Mr. Krupp had traveled back in time to the Cretaceous period where they were nowhere to be found, everyone assumed that George, Harold, and Mr. Krupp had robbed a bank and were hiding out in Canada or Mexico somewhere. It wasn't too long before the cops gave up and stopped looking for them. This was sad news for most of their residents of Pequea, Ohio, but not for Melvin Sneedley. Melvin was finally happy for the first time in years. No George, no Harold meant no pranks, no comics, and best of all, no interruptions. Melvin could finally go about conducting his scientific experiments, creating a wild new inventions, and enjoying his beautiful mind in peace. But all that happiness only lasted for about 2 weeks because, as we mentioned earlier, you know who showed up. Chapter 4. Who must not be flushed? He who must not be flushed. The Turbo Toilet 2000 entered Earth's atmosphere in a blazing fireball from the sky. His rocket scooter soared over the rooftops of the small Oho town as the porcupine predator bellowed out an eardrum-crushing taunt. Here's Johnny! Then came destruction. Buildings collapsed. City buses were thrown through skyscrapers, and fires raged out of windows. Rage out of control. The chaos and devastation crippled the town, sent presidents running for their lives, and annoyed the heck out of one little boy. Melvin Sneedley had been trying to get some work done in his bedroom laboratory. When the attack began, all he needed was 1 or 2 more hours of uninterrupted silence to complete his experiment, but the terrible ruckus outside was really getting on his nerves. Melvin marched over to his bedroom window, poked his head out, and shouted, "Hey! I'm trying to work! You idiot! Be quiet!" Sorry. As you can probably imagine, the Turbo Toilet 2000 didn't take too kindly to be dressed down in such a manner. He swiveled his massive bowl around quickly and glared at Melvin with raging, hard-boiled eyeballs. "Uh-oh," Melvin gulped. Suddenly, the Turbo Toilet 2000 leaped at Melvin. The tiny tattletale screamed as the malevolent miscreant chased him down the street, across the city, and the 2 empty, darkened hallways of Jerome Ordway's elementary school. Melvin ran upstairs and hid under Mr. Krupp's desk, while the Turbo Toilet 2000 marched through the classrooms for him. Melvin was in deep trouble. Finally, he actually needed Captain Underpants' help, but the waistband warrior was nowhere to be found. "Rats," said Melvin. "If I only could." Ouch! Melvin's knee was pressing down into something sharp. Carefully, Melvin reached down and pulled the pointy little object out of his knee. It was a toenail. Not just any toenail, either. It was one of Mr. Krupp's thick, greasy yellow toenails that he had clipped off the day before. He had been whisked away on his journey back through time. Ew! Ew! "What a slob," said Melvin as he flicked the toenail away. Then Melvin thought of something. know that he know he knew that Mr. Krupp was also Captain Underpants. That meant that Mr. Krupp DNA must have some kind of superpowered element in to his makeup. If Melvin could find a way to extract this super powered element from Mr. Krupp's DNA, theoretically transfer those superpowers to himself. Where's that toenail? Melvin cried. Chapter 5, Big Melvin Returns. Okay, guys, this is going to be off. This is going to be part 2. Bye-bye.